Look at the smile on the face of Robert Kiyosaki as he discusses his concerns about the bond market and its potential impact on the U.S. economy during his recent interview with Fox Business. We know why he's smiling, despite the worst financial conditions in the market. Watch this clip and listen carefully. Then I will explain why he's smiling and what we can learn from his experiences and how we can make money in the midst of this turmoil.
Now, the thing that I see is that the Fed and the FDIC are signaling hyperinflation, which makes gold and silver even better because this thing here is trash. They're going to print more and more of this fake money. And that's what the Fed and the FDIC is signaling. We're going to print as much of this as possible to keep the crash from accelerating. But they're the guys who are causing it.
Kiyosaki has a history of making predictions about economic events and trends that have later come true. No one believed him when he predicted the collapse of Lehman Brothers before it happened, which gives him credibility as an economic commentator.
You're really that worried about Goldman Sachs and Lehman Brothers?
Yes. I'm afraid the Federal Reserve will eventually or come close to bailing them out. That's what I'm concerned about.
The investment bank filed for bankruptcy this morning, a shocking ending to a weekend of frantic negotiations which failed to save the company from collapse.
Now, once again, major banks are shutting down in the United States, and Kiyosaki warned investors a month ago that a giant crash is coming for the financial markets. Robert Kiyosaki says that another bank is set to crash following the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank and the voluntary liquidation of Silvergate Bank. He stressed that the situation would positively impact precious metals. It is quite possible that Kiyosaki's smile during the interview was a reflection of his previous experiences in making such predictions and of not being initially believed by investors. This video will cover Robert Kiyosaki's most recent predictions, warnings, and recommendations for investors. The global banking sector has experienced turmoil in recent weeks due to a series of bank collapses in Europe and the United States. According to Robert Kiyosaki, the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Credit Suisse, which is Switzerland's second largest bank, is the next bank to collapse after the two large bank collapses in the United States. Credit Suisse is also an investment bank and stands among the largest banks both in Europe and worldwide. Kiyosaki tweeted on March 10, 2023, that this situation will have a positive impact on precious metals when he said, quote, "Two major banks have crashed. Number 3 set to go. Buy real gold and silver coins now. No ETFs. When bank number 3 goes, gold and silver rocket up. 2008, I forecasted the collapse of Lehman days before it crashed on CNN. If you want proof, go to richdad.com. He continues, saying, the problem is the bond market. And my prediction, I called Lehman Brothers years ago, I think the next bank to go is Credit Suisse. He explained how the bond market will put the U.S. in serious trouble as he expects the American dollar to weaken. The bond market's much bigger than the stock market. The Fed is up, and they're the firemen and the arson, Robert Kiyosaki told Fox Business during his interview. Mr. Kiyosaki said that he is, quote, concerned about Credit Suisse, the world's 8th largest investment bank, due to the so-called perfect storm caused by the bond market crash and the upcoming retirement of his generation. Earlier, Robert Kiyosaki had warned that the U.S. pension crisis could be the, quote, next global Lehman. As a result, he has suggested that investors buy gold, silver, and Bitcoin as a hedge against high inflation and the Federal Reserve's unlimited printing of so-called fake money. Let's take a short look at Robert Kiyosaki's interview on Fox Business.
Well, let me say it again. The problem is the bond market. And my prediction, I called Lehman Brothers years ago. And I think the next bank to go is Credit Suisse. And if that happens, Japan...
Because of its exposure to a lot of this?
Yes, because the bond market is crashing. All those bonds, let's say you're getting paid 5% for a bond and it goes to 10%, the 5% bond crashes. And the bond market is much bigger than the stock market, as we know. So absolutely. The Fed is the top, and they're what they say, the firemen and the arson. And that's why I said the biggest problem, as you know, is the bond market, which is the biggest market in the world. And all the countries of the world are in U.S. bills, T-bills and T-bonds. And And we had the BRICS nations coming up, and they hate us, and they might switch to the Chinese gold, yuan. So we're in serious trouble. The U.S. dollar is losing its hegemony in the world right now. So, and they're going to print more and more and more of this, trying to keep this thing from sinking.
Robert tweeted on March 13th, 2023, quote, "Bailouts begin. More fake money to invade sick economy. Still recommend same response. Buy more G, S, and BC. Take care. Crash landing ahead." Robert Kiyosaki's prediction came just hours before Credit Suisse admitted to a so-called material weakness in its reporting procedures for the 2021 and 2022 fiscal years. The bank's auditors gave an adverse opinion about its internal controls due to a lack of risk controls. On March 15th, Credit Suisse's stock slumped as much as 31%, following the chairman of its largest shareholder, Saudi National Bank, ruling out further investments in the company. This prompted Credit Suisse to request a public statement of support from the Swiss Central Bank. The bank's bond insurance costs surged to levels not seen for a major bank since the 2008 global financial crisis. To avoid potential economic fallout from a Credit Suisse collapse, the central bank offered to lend as much as $54 billion and buy back up to 3 billion francs of debt. This bought Swiss authorities some time to find a more sustainable solution. Over the following weekend, they forced Credit Suisse into a merger with its local rival UBS for about $3.25 billion, which is less than half its market value when shares closed the previous Friday. Credit Suisse has faced numerous failures, including a criminal conviction for allowing drug dealers to launder money in Bulgaria, involvement in a corruption case in Mozambique, a spying scandal with a former employee and an executive, and a significant leak of client data to the media. The bank's willingness to do business with clients that other banks avoided, such as Lex Greensill and Archegos Capital Management, resulted in substantial losses, exacerbating the perception that the institution lacked control over its affairs. This led to unprecedented client outflows in late 2022, particularly in Asian wealth management, which had been a significant source of profit growth for many years. In 2022, Credit Suisse reported a net loss of $7.93 billion. Earlier this month, Kiyosaki showed his concerns about a global recession. The world is currently experiencing a recession that's worse than the Great Depression. He warns that this could lead to bankruptcy, unemployment, and homelessness, which will have a significant impact on people's retirement savings. Kiyosaki tweeted back on the 28th of January 2023, quote, "What's worse than a Great Depression? Answer, a global recession. Unfortunately, we are in global recession. Hang on, rough landing for world. Bad news, bankruptcy, unemployment, homelessness soar. Retirements toast. Good news, bargains everywhere. Gold, silver, BC, priceless." However, Kiyosaki believes that there are still opportunities to be found during a recession. He suggests that investors can take advantage of bargains, and that certain assets, including gold, silver, and Bitcoin, can provide a measure of protection against inflation and economic uncertainty. One of his biggest concerns is the massive amount of debt that governments around the world have taken on. As Kiyosaki explains, when debt levels get too high, it becomes difficult for countries to pay back what they owe. This can lead to defaults, which can trigger a domino effect that can ultimately lead to a global financial crisis. World economy on verge of collapse, Kiyosaki said in a Twitter message on the 11th of March 2023. He then again urged investors to buy silver, saying, quote, "Please, please, please. World economy on verge of collapse. Runs on banks next? Savings frozen? Bail-ins next? I make no money when you buy real silver coins. I simply want you prepared for what is coming. You can buy a real silver coin for about $25. Please take care." Another factor that Kiyosaki is worried about is the instability of the banking system. He believes that many banks are over-leveraged, meaning that they've taken on too much risk relative to the amount of capital they have on hand. This makes them vulnerable to runs, where depositors try to withdraw their funds, causing the bank to collapse. So what does all of this mean for the average person? Kiyosaki warns that we could see bank runs and frozen savings accounts in the near future. In other words, If too many people try to withdraw their money from a bank all at once, the bank may not have enough cash on hand to give everyone their money back. This could lead to a situation where people are unable to access their savings for an extended period of time. Even more concerning, Kiyosaki warns of something called a bail-in. This is when a bank uses depositors' funds to recapitalize itself in the event of a crisis. In other words, if a bank fails, it may take money from its customers' accounts to stay afloat. This could result in people losing a portion of their savings, or even all of it. Robert often said that he does not believe the Biden administration. He previously warned that the Federal Reserve's actions could abolish the U.S. economy and the dollar. Robert Kiyosaki, again, the famed author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, has expressed concerns on numerous occasions about the looming financial market crashes. He has recently cautioned against investing in conventional assets such as stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and exchange-traded funds, or ETFs. Instead, Kiyosaki advises investors to concentrate on alternative assets like Bitcoin, gold, and silver, arguing that these assets may offer protection during times of turbulence. He regards gold and silver as God's money, whereas Bitcoin is the people's money. In mid-February of 2023, Kiyosaki forecasted that by the year 2025, Bitcoin's value would skyrocket to $500,000, while gold would surge to $5,000 and silver would rise to $500. But why? Well, in his view, investors who hold these assets will benefit greatly when the Federal Reserve shifts its policies and prints trillions of dollars. Kiyosaki attributes the expected surge in crypto asset prices to the loss of faith in the US dollar as a result of the Federal Reserve's misguided monetary policies, which have compelled the regulator to print billions in counterfeit currency. He shared his thoughts on Twitter by saying, quote, "Giant crash coming, depression possible, Fed forced to print billions in fake money. By 2025, gold at 5,000, silver at 500, and Bitcoin at 500,000. Why? Because faith in US dollar, fake money, will be destroyed. Gold and silver, God's money. Bitcoin, people's money. Take care." Robert Kiyosaki recently tweeted to his followers that he intends to use fake dollars to purchase more gold, silver, and Bitcoin, which he refers to as real money. Kiyosaki had previously explained his belief that the value of gold, silver, and Bitcoin will continue to increase when he wrote in his Twitter feed on the 1st of February, quote, "Q. Why are gold, silver, and Bitcoin going higher? Answer: because U.S. poor and middle class getting poorer and deeper in bad debt. Please don't get poorer. At least buy one silver coin, only $30, and start to get richer." Robert Kiyosaki is a fan of precious metals, especially gold and silver, because he believes they are a good way to hedge against inflation and uncertainty. Unlike fiat currency, which can be printed out of thin air, precious metals have intrinsic value that is not easily affected by economic events. Kiyosaki has been a gold investor since 1972 and has said in interviews that he does not trust the Federal Reserve, which is why he chooses to invest in gold. For him, buying gold is not just about liking the metal, but rather it's a way to protect his wealth from the potential negative effects of government monetary policies. Time for the important announcement. Now you can join our community of 5,000 plus members and active stock market investors and receive the latest timely stock market and economy related updates, like what stocks to buy and what stocks to ignore or sell to save your portfolios. Economy and stock market related commentary and alerts are shared regularly on a weekly basis. You can also chat with me during market hours and ask me any questions. Join our community on Discord through Patreon. Upon becoming a member, you'll be able to enjoy some great perks. For example, you'll be able to receive proper buying and selling alerts for a wide range of potential stocks. We'll also share tips and alerts for option trading. You'll receive a weekly guide for stocks performance and updates with technical analysis. You'll be able to chat with over 5,000 like-minded members all the time. And you'll also be able to chat with me during market hours. I'd be delighted if you could join us. The link to join is given in the description below. Thanks, and see you on the other side.